Hi, welcome to my presentation. We will be starting soon. Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. Thank you for coming back. Today we are talking about product UI and UX design, how we can sync between these designs. And we will be talking about what's the difference between these designs and how we can synchronize these. Product UI is user interface, then UX is user experience. So how these three things are connected in designing a product or services. I am Thomas. This is my fourth video of this year. I hope you enjoyed the previous videos. And this also will be a knowledge sharing for you and your team. Okay. What is product design? It's a perfect merge of business, UX, and tech. So product design should contain the business strategies and which transform to the product strategies. Also, it should include UX, that is user experience, that is the voice of customer, and technology. So perfect merge of business, UX, and tech will give a good product design. So this is the way of making product and services for any company or any product. When you talk about these three factors, is the three milestones, three important factors of product design. That is business strategies, user, and technology. Whatever may be the technology, maybe you are talking about a traditional old technology, whatever it may be. So the technology matters. At the same time, user views matters and business strategies. What is the difference between product design and UX design? Product design is a business function. As I said earlier, product design is a business function. It's focusing on maximizing business values from a product or service. What is UX design? UX design actually a UI design based on user experience. That part we have to clearly understand. Actually, we can't design a user experience. That is, so many people say that I am designing user experience. That is not at all possible because user experience is happening in the mind of a user. How you can design it? You have no idea about what is the experience it creates in the user because it changes according to the situation, according to the time, according to the emotional factors, according to the cultural factors, according to the necessity. Lot of factors affecting the experience level of the user. Even though the user today says that that is good for me, tomorrow the same user for the same product he will claim that that is bad for me because it controls based on lot of external factors. So nobody can design a UX for a user. But actually what it means, UX design means a company is designing user interface based on user experience. That design is called UX design. Okay, of course, you may be asking any other way of designing UI. Yes, UI can be designed based without talking to consumer, just based on the your technology or your intuitions. Think about lot of products in ancient days is designed just based on quality and technology. No way talking about users, and there is no room for users voice. But in last 50 years, maybe specifically you can say the last 25 years, everybody will consider users opinion Or even though you design a product without user's opinion, that's the second version you will be developing based on users views, because otherwise you can't sell. So because user is ultimate person to use your product, so you have to consider user views. Without that you can't. So UX design means UI design based on UX. Okay, actually this is based on voice of user. UX is based on voice of the user. So UI designer must be patient about the user experience by talking users and get their feedback. That is one of the important thing. A UI designer who is based on UX should do. So the UI designer should interact with the user. This is the main difference between product design and UX design. So you can understand these two terms. More specific, these three terms: product design. Product design is a business function, maximizing business value or transferring the values to the user. So it's a product design. UI is a user interface, which should be there in the product design. Otherwise, user can't interact. Then UX is user experience. UI design based on user experience. That's called UX design. These are the three main terms we have to keep in mind, and we should have clarity on these three things. Okay, what is product design? In simple terms, product must be valuable, usable, and feasible. This is the definition of product design. You can design any product or service. When I say product, that includes services also. You can design any product, maybe an automobile you are designing, maybe a FMCG product you are designing, or your service product like banking or insurance, what you are designing. It should be valuable to user. It should be usable to user. It should be feasible to user. In the perspective of user, that is important. You can claim that is valuable. Company can claim that it's usable, but these things to be measured in the perspective of user. Users should say that this is valuable, usable, and feasible. This is the definition given by a great management expert. I always take this explanation while doing the product design. So valuable, usable, and feasible. Actually, the product design includes UX. That is what I want to explain in this presentation. Product design is covering all these factors. When you say usable, when you say valuable and feasible, when you say usable, it includes UX. Otherwise, there is a negative feedback based on the UX. So product design includes UX. That is the first step is how we are to design a brand. I'm just giving the main three steps of designing the product, because this presentation is not for product design. This is talking about merging of UX and product designs. So create product concept. This is the first step. Second step is product design and action plans. So product design and action plan, that should be developed as a second step. Third step is seek experience from targeted audience. These are the three main steps of product design. The third step is always talking about the voice of user. So where the user experience plays a big role. Okay, these definition and steps leads to a user-centric design. Nowadays, all the companies are following user-centric design because user is the ultimate beneficiary, whatever product you are developing or whatever service you are providing. I think you can see and understand from my illustration. So product, it covers a lot of factors, lot of strategies, lot of features, and it's a product. From the product, how the product is interacting with the user. There's a UI is required in the product. That's user interface. Without a user interface, no product can interact with the user. So user interface should be there. That's a part of the product. I'm actually just saying that is user interface, but actually it's a part of the product. We can say there is a product features or core product, then there is an interface to interact. Then this interface is the main platform which is interacting with the user. From that UI, user is creating user experience, because the user don't know what is in the backend of the product. Actually, user is interacting to UI, user interface, which makes the user experience. So that's why UI designer is an important factor, or UI is an important factor to generate user experience. Then it comes to user's mind. That's why you can't design, or you can't analyze, or you can't inject anything to the user's mind, because the user is getting experience according to his own way. But the major role is how your UI interact with the user. Think about any product. This is not for a digital product. Think about any product. Digital product is very easy. Think about as app. You can see there is whatever you are seeing about the app is a user interface. You don't know what technology behind it, what database it's using, or what language is using behind that. You don't know. You don't know whether that app is written on Python or Java or any other language, or it's using MongoDB or MySQL or Oracle or whatever it may be. You have no idea, but actually user is interacting with the user interface. Whatever you are seeing in the mobile app or in the web app, it's a user interface. So what experience that user interface is creating in the mind of the user, that depends on the design of user interface. Okay. Similarly, think about a physical product. For example, a car. Car is a product. Car contains a lot of engineering technology, lot of aerodynamics, lot of electrical technology, electrical parts, mechanical parts, lot of things you can think about car while designing it. So a lot of features it's having. Some features may not be used by a user at all, but actually there are a lot of features you incorporate in the car. But how user interact with the car? Using steering, clutch, brakes, dashboards. This is a user interface of the car. Otherwise, user is not interacting directly to engine. So that's not possible. User don't know what technology is used in that engine. User is not aware about it, and user is not interested to learn about it. He's just using brake or clutch or accelerator. That is a user interface connecting to engine. Like that AC, there is a from dashboard. It's having a user interface. It's connecting to the air conditioner, music system, whatever the features of the product you have in car. You provide a user interface if the user wants to control it. Otherwise, you are not providing. You won't provide any user interface. There are a lot of features like that in a car. You won't provide any user interface, but it will be operates inside the product without a user interface. So actually, user is interacting only with the user interface. This user interface generates a user experience while driving the car, while using the other features inside the car, which creates a user experience in the driver's mind, how this car works. That judges the quality of the car according to the perspective of the user. So this is the way these three factors affects product. Product is interacting with the user through user interface, and this interaction creates a user experience in user's mind. So in turn, company or the product has to create a good user experience in user's mind. Am I right? Otherwise, you can't sell the product or service. Whatever service or whatever product you are selling, the ultimate beneficiary is the user. You have to create a good user experience in his mind, even though you can't measure or you can't experience or you can't feel the experience created inside users' mind. Only users can explain it. Sometimes they can't explain. So most of the users can't explain the wow factor of the product because this is beyond their explanation sometimes. But still, you can take or take that output from their emotions, their expressions, or their actions. Okay, there are different ways to measure user experience. we had to use it. But actually, UX design means designing UI based on UX. That part you have to understand, and all the design should be user centric. Whatever may be. What product you are. Think about some companies who claim that they never talk to user. Of course, they may never talk to user. That I can understand. But I still ask whether you consider user views in your design table. You can't avoid user from your design table. You may not be talking to user, but you are learning from user. But because the communicative interaction, the face-to-face interaction is one method of learning user experience. There are a lot of other methods, even just observation, third-party reports. Think about a lot of things you can use in learning user experience, how user feels about the product. So just saying that I'm not interested to talk to user, that is not a claim like we are not considering user. They are not interacting with the user directly in the first hand, that I can understand, but you can't avoid user from your design table. I'm not mentioning the brand names. One of the global best companies in the world, they say that they won't talk to user, but they will consider experience. They design experience centers and collect all the information from the experience center and saying that they won't talk to user. I don't know what they are talking about. Actually, the one thing I can say that they are not interacting face to face to the user. They are not believing in that method of collecting user experience. Okay, fine. But you can't avoid users from your design table. Okay, so UI designer starts based on the product design. So actually UI designer can start only after product designer starts. So product is a total business scenario or total business function which contains lot of strategies. Based on the product strategies, UI designer starts. So UI designer is looking to the user and the product designer. Here the UI designer is learning from the user and product designer and design UI. So UI designer can start only after product designer starts. So where to start? This is really interesting question. Where to start? As a UI designer, from where you had to start? The first step is conceive product from the product designer. Because product designer consider a lot of factors like business factors, includes financial factors, strategies, product strategies, core company strategies, company's vision, social factors, targeted customers, lot of factors they talk about while doing the product design. So product design more or less considered technology as well as business strategies. So conceive the idea, the entire product idea from the product designer. That's the first step a UI designer has to do. What technology they are planning to use and what's their capabilities. Whether they can include new technologies or what the capabilities of the company, what are the strategies of the business, what are the strategies of that product, what is the strategies for the industry. So everything had learned from the product designer, because product designer is designed the product designer designed that product based on all these factors. Then come to the phase two, look to other brands. So you have to look outside, not only the company's strategies and product strategies, look other brands, how they solve this problem or how they place their product in this market, and competitor products. That's how you look to other brands and competitor products. So of course there are a lot of competitor products. or substitute products. There are a lot of products which the user is using to end user is using to solve the situation or to take the things happen. He may be using some other product, that's called substitution products or competitor products. You are not in that field, you are just developing that product. So look to the other brands and competitor products, including substitution products. Learn from these factors. Then phase 3, look to social media for stories and experience. Now the social media is one of the important area or important media to learn about users, because most of the people will share their experience in social media, so you can learn from that. Maybe that is their experience may be explained not for your purpose, but still you can learn based on their experience, their stories, their reactions. So go through the specific groups in different social media platforms about the same product or similar product, have the same objectives, same strategies. As look to social media for stories and experiences. What the experience this product is generating in front of the user, in the minds of the user. Then phase 4 is analyze user needs and technology limits. These are one of the important areas the UI designer make mistakes. First, they have to learn from users. Analyze the user needs. This is one of the important factors. User interface should not design based on intuition. I know that 90% of the UI designers design the user interface based on their own intuition and their own idea. This is something like a poet is writing a poetry. This is just a hobby. But we are talking about the commercial scenario. This is not a hobby. This is a commercial aspect is there. So when a poet is making a poetry or a story writer is writing a story, and a film director is directing a film, writing a story for the film, these having two different perspectives. Story writer is just writing the story for his hobby, may not have much business interest. So the may be a reader or may not be a reader, doesn't matter for the story writer because it's a hobby, he's enjoying that. But a film storyboard maker or story writer is making it for keeping the audience in his mind. So it's having a commercial aspect. So without the audience, how? What is the purpose of creating a film storyboard without a user, without an audience or without a spectator for that film? So analyze user need, one of the important factor while designing UI. This is one of the biggest mistake most of the UI designers. UI designers, I'm just designing a UI user interface and you have to follow. Nobody will follow that. It will keep in the shelf. That's all. Because the product owner or a product designer won't follow your design if you just design it from your intuitions. That's your own creations. You have to consider business factors as well as user needs. Otherwise, your UI won't give any solution to the product designer. Then technology limits. Technology limits is one of the important thing the UI designer should keep in mind, because company have lot of technology limits. Companies has technology strategies. For example, Google will use only Google platform. Facebook will use only Facebook platform. Amazon will use only Amazon platform. Maybe internally they are learning it, but actually when come to the user side, they will use only these technologies. So they also have the technology limits. According to the strategies, they are not allowed to use other strategy, others products. UI designer should understand these limits whatever maybe the company size is, a global company, is the biggest company, they can take anything to their design board, but they have some strategic limits. Smaller company may have limits based on the financial factors because they can't afford most of the technologies. So they have financial factors. So what's their technology strategies, technology limits that UI designer should understand. Based on that, you design the UI. Otherwise, the UI designer will design lot of interfaces, lot of methods, but that's not practically possible by the developers. This is one of the important factors UI designer should consider. Of course, after considering all these factors, the technology limits, user needs, and product strategies, you should add your creativity to design. Otherwise, your design won't be unique. And that creativity makes the difference in front of the user. So you have to consider all these limits, all these factors, then add creativity to design. That is actually the measure of the capabilities of UI designer. Within that limits, how you create a unique design or how you add creativity to design. So these are the important phases you have to consider. After that, you have to design UI for targeted user. Again, I'm repeating, this is not a hobby, or this is not only for your satisfaction. You are in the commercial space. Design UI for targeted users. Otherwise, company won't accept, or product designer won't accept your designs. User also won't accept your design. So design UI for targeted users. That is important. I'm just designing UI. Who is going to use it? I don't know. Are you designing for kids? Are you designing for elders? Are you designing for a particular country? Or are you designing for a group of people having a particular culture? UI designers should understand this. The same thing can be designed for these different targeted users. For example, I can design a banking app for teenagers. I can design a banking app for senior citizens. So this should have different UI, because whatever you are providing to, even just a font size, you think about what you are providing, the font size and colors you are providing to a teenager may not be a good option for a senior citizen. So you have to design UI for targeted users. That is one of the important things you have to keep in mind. UI designer should keep the user, the targeted user, at the center of the design board, then design. Okay, how to do this design? You start with wireframes. Considering all these factors, the first step is develop wireframes. You can use some softwares, any softwares. You can use even just a paint you can use, or you can use some Corel Draw or some types of drawing softwares. You can use develop wireframes. That's a schematic drawing of the design. That's the first step. UI design is not complex. It's very simple. But UI designer should consider these factors. Otherwise, it is not syncing with the product design. That is the only problem I experienced in last 25 years of research and design. Should consider user needs and business scenarios. Otherwise, it won't sync with the product design. So most of the UI designers write their own way, they design their own way. That is one of the biggest problem product designer is facing. So start with wireframe. Considering all these factors, start with wireframes. Then the second level is mockups. So you have to design or improve your wireframes to mockups, giving some look and feel, how this is going to happen, or the shape, size, colors. It is the mockups. Then again, you can use any software for these mockups. Then comes to UI design. So UI design is an interactive design where you can play with menus and options. It will be work like a software, but without any backend. So nothing is in the backend, but actually the interface is designed. So that's called UI design. So actually these are three steps. That's the main step. This is three main milestones of UI design. First is wireframe, second is mockup, and third is UI design. So in UI design, you can use any softwares like Figma or UiSat or Adobe XD. A lot of softwares are available. You can use any softwares. In wireframes and mockups, you can use any design softwares. And here there are in UI design, there are specific softwares designed for UI that you can use. So these are the three steps of UI design. Then how to measure UI design against user experience. That's one of the important factors any UI designer has to do. You can design a lot of things, but it should measure against user experience. How to measure that? Tell a story. Self-assessment using stories. That's a very interesting method to assess the UI design against UX. How to tell your own stories on your own design. So I'm just explaining different stories, themes here. You put a story theme in front of you. I, Thomas, I am from New York. How to automate social media using this application. That's just a story thing. I am filling that sentence. I, the targeted user, I am from that targeted location. How to, that is what is the purpose. So I, Thomas, I am from New York. How to automate social media using this application. So then you have to create that story based on your UI design. So how you can do, that's actually a role play. So you can use you take the role of this user and answer or create a story on behalf of the user. That's very interesting. But you have to keep in mind that you are not a designer. You are taking the role of that user and generating the story. Like that, another story theme. I, Thomas, age 40, and how to automate social media using this application. So the age is a factor. This is another story theme. Like that, you can apply the story theme by considering different ages. I am a person having 17 years. I am a person is having 35 years. I am a person is having 60 years. So how to automate social media using this? So another story theme is I'm a user. I'm an engineer. How to automate social media. So the profession comes to display. So the stories are making based on age, profession, location, and the next one is usage. I am a daily user. I am Thomas. I will use this application every day, 2 or 3 times in a day. Think about it. I'm a heavy user. I'm using this application 2 or 3 times in a day. How to automate my social media using this application. So this is another story theme. So another story theme is what benefits I will get if I use it for. For example, I'm Thomas. What benefits I will get if I use it for my social media automation. So this is a different way of creating the story themes, and put these story themes in front of you and create stories. So what are the story themes? It's based on location, based on age, based on profession, based on usage, and based on benefit. So you can create a lot of other story themes also. These are the five main aspects you have to consider while telling the story or while analyzing. Because when you talk about a user, that user may be from a specific location, because location is one of the important variable or important factor in user experience. Age is an important factor of user experience. Profession, education and profession or occupation is an important factor of user experience. And usage is a heavy user, a medium user, a light user. That also gives different factors of user experience, because he's using a car every day for commuting, and another person is using the car, same brand of the car, only for the weekend travel. So that's one of the important variables for user experience. Then benefits and the variables. So you have to generate stories based on these factors, and you take the role of these users. You can design any role of the users and generate stories based on these roles. That's a method I propose based on self-assessment using stories. So think about these things we are sharing based on our years of experience, not based on any theories. These are developed based on our years of experience in this field. The next method is assessment using UX research. So maybe some companies saying that they will do they have to talk to the actual user. So it comes to UX research. So user experiences is the same method, but instead of role plays, we are talking to the real user in a particular location or particular age, or user is using with the time of heavy user or medium user, or looking for the benefits. So we find the actual user from society and interact with them. That's a UX research. The perspective in UX research, the perspective of designer and user, that matters. So actually what you are testing in the UX research, you have a UI design and user having a concept or learning or knowledge about this requirement, about his requirement. So these are different perspectives. You are providing a solution in the UI designer's point of view. User is looking to your solution in the user's needs. So what are maybe the stage, wireframe or mockup or UI design? In wireframe, you can use depth interviews or group discussions, different methods to analyze your wireframes. You can present your wireframes in front of the user and ask their opinion and their views. And after completing the wireframe, you can go to mockups, and with mockups, you can go to the same persona of the user and do it again. Then finalize your mockups. Then do UI design, and actually the interactive design also. You can go to the user with the of having the same persona and test and learn from the user. So actually, what you are learning in these three stages. Some people say that after UI design I will go to, but it's better what we suggest is in the each stage, in the wireframe stage or in the mockup stage and UI design stage, user interface design stage, you have to talk to user, get user experience. Or at the same time, the first step, the stories also can be developed based on these three steps. Okay. So actually, what you are learning in this stage from UX research, what is the gap between the UI design and user needs or user experience? He is visualizing based on this design, because the product is not released, so you can't give the user experience to the user based on the product, but user can visualize the usage of the product and explain their experience from the visualization. So that part, the visualization journey, you have to use it using the moderator who will be conducting the research. So actually what you are analyzing, the gap between the designer, UI design and user needs. I'm not talking about how to analyze that gap, but actually you are analyzing the gap. There are different methods of analyzing the gap. One method is grow news model, another method is PZB model. So there are a lot of models available to analyze that gaps. But for how to analyze the gap theoretically, or the based on these theoretical and empirical models, I will do another video for that. Still, I am just saying that the gap you are analyzing between the UI design and user needs using UX research. Okay. Then, when you get this gap, When you feel that there is a gap, you have to redesign your user interface. The same method you adopted in the first step, you have to consider all these factors, the technology factors, user experience, and business strategies. Based on these factors, you have to redesign, because now you have a different view on user experience. You have a learning about the product, as you in the different phases I explained. You learned about the product. Now you have the visualized experience shared by the user through stories as well as the UX research. You have a gap between the UI design and actual user needs. So that's UX you have, and the technology factors you already have. Whether these needs can be developed by the tech and business. So actually, the UI design, you can consider these factors, but the product owner or product designer will consider these factors more deeply. You can design UI based on UX and submit to the product designer. So actually, you have to redesign your UI based on UX. Actually, you are in the center point. You have to consider UX and whether the consider technology limits and business strategies. That way, you can redesign your user interface. Then deliver it to the team. So delivery also important. You have to deliver to the team of developers, and you have to answer the questions from the UI developer. That is, developer means mainly a technology person who is coding or who is developing, the engineering person who is developing that user interface. They also get the clarity on that, and product owner will be there, product designer will be there. So they will be get more clarity, or they will be understand your UI design. That is another mistake UI designers make. According to my experience, UI designer will design and just deliver it. This is my UI design. You have to do. No. If you are doing that, there are a lot of factors. The product designer, business owner, and the uh, product developer will look into while developing this design, because there are lot of technology factors going to affect, business factors you're going to affect. As I said earlier, these are the important factors that tech people and business people will look into. You are giving UI based on UX. So you are the starting point of the design after product strategy. So the product strategy is a complete business function. While the business function is set, the product strategy is set, the next step is coming to the UI designer. UI designer designs UI based on UX. Then UI designer transfer his knowledge and design to the development team. Better, you should be the part of the development team. UI designer should be the part of the development team and answer questions. So if there are some points which is not considered by you in the technical factors and business factors, still you can look into, and you can interact with the users, or from the answers given by the users, or you analyze using UX research. Still you can change some factors of your some parts of your UI design based on this technology and business strategies. So it's better UI designer should be a part of the development team. That is better. Don't deliver it like a outsider. Okay, I hope I explained almost all the factors about these three design levels: the product design, UI design, and UX design. Whatever I explained is based on our 20 years of experience in market research, more specifically in UX research. We are working for global brands in these years, and we are doing this research all over the world. So what are the takeaways? The first thing is conceive product from product designer. The first step you have to do, you have to understand the product based on business function. Based on the business strategy, you have to understand that don't start your design without understanding the product strategies from product designer or product owner. So because they are the person who is going to develop and they are the financial beneficiaries of your design. So they are your client. So you have to understand the product from product designer. Second step is analyze user needs and technology. So this is your area. Analyze your needs and technology limits. Especially analyze user experiences by putting the visual aids or visualization triggers as well as experience shared in social media or different phases I already explained. Using that, you analyze user needs and technology limits. Then third is the important step every UI designer. You give the creativity, add the creativity to your design. Don't just design just based on UI users needs. Users needs is only one factor. Your product maybe consider 100% users needs, but you have to give something extra. So your UI design contains, so the entire UI design contains 100% user needs. Still, it comes to 80% of your design. The balance 20% that gives creativity, that add creativity. Because one important thing you have to keep in mind by great visionaries, and that is a fact, user can't give a solution. User can explain their problems, their requirements, but user can't suggest solution. Don't explain just a solution explained by the user to the design table, because user can't give the solution. That's one of the main conclusion I have in last 20 years of research. User can't give the solution. User can explain their problems, their requirements. Look at two major companies in the world, the visionaries. I can name that visionaries: Steve Jobs and Henry Ford. They said, user can't solve a business problem, or user can't solve a problem in the society. User can explain the problem. They can explain the requirements. You have to solve the problem. A business should solve the user's problem. So user can just explain, and they can criticize it, but user won't give the solutions. Don't look into the solution to the user, and learn from the user about their requirements and problems. So their needs and problems. But don't transfer the user solutions suggested. Maybe most of the users are smart enough to suggest a lot of solutions, but don't transfer the same solution to the design table without applying your creativity and your knowledge to that. So add creativity to your design and knowledge to your design. Design UI for the targeted users. As I said earlier, the user-centric approach is a must. This is not a poetry. This is not a story for your enjoyment. Design UI by keeping in mind that this is a targeted user who's going to use your UI. Maybe an illiterate woman from a village is going to use your application. So targeted users is important. In each stage, it's a wireframe, then mockup, and UI design. These are three steps I already explained. So this is not a very complex thing. Just do the wireframe and mockup. And most of the people ask me, what is UI design? What is UX? Actually, everybody can do the UI and UI design and UI based on UX. If you have some visualizing capabilities. That is required. So you have some visualizing capabilities, you dream it, you visualize it, then you can do the design. But You have to consider users factors. That's a targeted users needs, business factors, and technology limits. This is the area the UI designer make mistakes. There are a lot of creative people, but they say that they will create something, but it may not be matching, may not be in synchronized with the technology the company is using, the business strategies company is having, the user needs. So these three factors the UI designer should consider in mind, then design it. You will be a perfect designer by keeping the targeted user in mind. So wireframes, mockups, and UI design. These are very simple steps. Softwares are very simple. Then the next stage is measure your. Most of the UI designers say, my design is unique, my design is great, nothing to measure. No, don't take that stand. You have to measure. You have to measure. Also, the product owner or product designer has to measure UI design. The company has to measure. How to measure? You can do your self-assessment and UX research. These are the two methods. You can design a lot of methods. You have a lot of methodologies in UI, UX design. UX research. There are a lot of methodologies you can apply. Also, there are self-assessment methods. They can internal assessment, external assessments, whatever you apply according to your financial capabilities and your project design. You can do different type of method, but you should measure the design against the targeted users needs. Otherwise, the business owner or product owner will be in trouble, because after the design, after releasing the product, it may not be matching with the user needs. And technology is before that is also, before releasing that also, your design may not be matching with the technology available with the company. So these are the problems. So you have to do the self-assessment as well as UX research. Then incorporate changes and deliver UI design to the product designer. So while learn from the user, design the UI based on user experience, measure your design, and make the changes if there is a gap, then submit to the product designer. This is the task of a UI designer. So I'm talking about all these steps based on UX. That is, UI designers should talk to users and get their experience. So UI designer should be based on user experience, and UI designers should start from wireframes, then mockups and UI design, and test the UI design and analyze the gap and redesign if there is a gap, then submit to product designer. These are the main takeaways. Okay, do you have any questions? I hope I explained it very clearly, very each steps I explained. So do you have any questions? You can put it in the comments, or later on also you can put in the comments. I will answer all your questions. What are the qualities of UI designer, or how to measure? Oh, really good. So how to measure a UI designer? There's an HR activity actually, but you have to keep in mind whether the person is having a creativity. That sells, because you are doing the UI design for a business function, and business function means it's a commercial space, it should sell. That means it's valuable, usable, and feasible. So usable, you can very easily assess. Feasible is a financial aspect. That also is valuable, means that value generates from the creativity side of the UI designer. That's what I notice in my experience. That value creates in the user's mind is directly connected to the creativity of your user interface. User maybe imagine something, okay, then user feels that okay, that is available there. Tomorrow also, not only he may not be notice it today, but tomorrow after some time he notice, okay, that feature is available there. So that way you have to create the values. Value should be generated in user. So creativity is a one factor you have to assess when you talk to a UI designer. Second is patience to understand the technology needs, business needs, and user needs. I'm not engaging a user UI designer to do a UI as a hobby. Because so many times I am saying this word because most of the UI designers making this mistake, they feel that they will just design from their own ideas and others has to follow. I talk to when a UI designer submit a design, I will ask specific questions. Who is going to use this design? What way they will go use this design? Why they have to use this product? Where they are going to use this product and when they are going to use this product. Immediately the UI designer get irritated. You have to use my design. That this design is great. No, because we are developing a business or developing a commercial product based on your design. You are supposed to answer. You are forced to answer, or you are liable to answer these questions. So UI designer, be patient to answer business questions, and your UI design should synchronize with technology and business strategies of the company, along with user experience. Especially when the user experience is more clear when you go for the second version. With the first version, the product is not in the market. That creates a what we call creates a visual space and visual triggers. Creates a triggers and visual space to explain the experience by the user. But think about the version 2. The product is already there in the market. The user can easily explain their experience. Even though you haven't done the basic testing in the first version of the product, that's a very risky factor. Still release your first version, then get the experience very fast, and immediately you have to release a second version. That method most of the people will adopt, but it's a little bit risky. But when the first design it's completely failure, you have to completely redesign the product, but at that time it will be affect your brand loyalty and brand value. That's one of the problems. So better you release the product without the brand, without the brand name. So that's masking the brand name, then release the product, then get the experience. That method also you can use for testing, that mask method of product testing, white label testing, because that makes brand safe. Otherwise, if there's a big failure in your product, immediately user will look into that product, who designed that product, from which company is coming. They won't look into the UI designer, they will look into the brand name, which company is releasing that product. So sometimes it may be an ultimate failure, then it will affect your brand value. So white label your brand and test your first version. That don't expect income from the first version, that is just for testing. Your first version itself is a beta version, so you can just put it in front of the targeted user and test it, then immediately release the version 2. The version 2 is your commercial product. That way. So why it is happening? Because the UI designer is not learning properly from the targeted user. So that way you can move forward. So UI designer should learn from user experience, technology limits, and business strategies. So he should have patience. So creativity and patience to hear their client or the stakeholders. That is one of the drawbacks I notice with a lot of UI designers. They are just design it and submit the design, even though they are not interested to interact with the development team. I know the design. I designed it. You can use. So some methods the UI designer proposed can't be achieved by the technology. So if you design a flying car now, only few companies which is having that technical capabilities can achieve that level. Otherwise, how a small company can think about flying cars? So that type of designs, it's a waste of time. So look into these aspects of these character specific aspects of the UI designer. The UI designer should be patient to learn the product from the user needs, product designer, and technology limits. Then should have creativity. These are the two important aspects. Qualification side is better go for arts based people, not the engineering based people, because engineers more into the analytical capabilities. It's very difficult for them to create something, because when an engineer creates something, the factors I notice is when a design created by an engineer, it will be having a symmetry, it will be having a pattern, because engineer's mind is always analytical mind and mathematical mind. Engineers creativity is based on technology, but UI designers creativity is based on user needs, so emotional factors, experience factors, mind associations, psychological factors. These are the factors the UI designer should consider while doing the creativity side. Otherwise, when an engineer designs this, it's always like look a symmetric design, technically perfect. That's I can I am accepting that. That's a technically great, but the experience which is generate in front of the user, maybe what I can say, that is more or less designed. It's not having much emotional touch. So UI designer is better not to have the science-based background. It's better to have arts-based background. That is better. They should have creativity and they should have artistic capabilities and arts-based qualifications. Okay, you can ask more questions in the comments. I will answer later. Thank you for watching my presentation. And think about, we talk all these matters based on innovation journey. Ideation, concept, look and feel, prototyping, minimum viable product evaluation, then feedback. So during the ideation or concept, look and feel. So look and feel is the main steps where the UI designer starts. Ideation and concept is mainly for the product owner, product designer. Then starting with the look and feel, the wireframes, mockups, and UI design. That gives a look and feel of the product which is going to develop in the innovation journey. So whether it is a closed innovation journey or open innovation journey, so closed innovation journey is internal, based on internal factors, and open innovation journey you are talking to the targeted users. So look and feel in the open innovation journey, the look and feel to be presented in front of the user and get the experience in the visual world, from the visual world or the real world. The UI designer collect the user experience and incorporate that experience in his design and make the look and feel perfect. Then transfer to the development team for developing the prototype. So the look and feel starts from the concept, then wireframes, then mockups, then UI design. So UI design is the input for the prototyping. Okay, that's a stage you have to apply UI design. Thank you for your time again. If you like my presentation, you can share to your team and you can refer it anytime. Especially my presentation is around 1 hour long, so you can put it in split and hear it because sometimes you may not have time to hear 1 hour. But I need 1 hour, otherwise I could not explain all these factors. That's why it took around 1 hour for my presentation. Thank you. Thanks a lot.